Okay, well, this is AlbertaWade's podcast number 3. Justin Keeley is our guest today. I'll introduce him just a little bit. He's my friend for a long, long time. Southern Alberta rancher, cattleman, livestock auctioneer, pro bull riding judge, and a big family man, Justin Keeley.
Nice to see you, Wade.
Right on, partner.
Always a damn pleasure. I got the call from you there a few weeks ago and was more than willing to do this. It's we've been through a lot of miles together, a lot of water under the bridge. And really happy to be here. Looking forward to the day.
Perfect. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah. So where were you last night? Let's tell us about this most recent judging expedition.
I was up in Calgary at the Agrium Center there at Stampede Grounds. There was what they call the Monster PBR Energy Series, which is the elite series in professional bull riders in Canada. It's Americans, Brazilians, Aussies, Canadians, of course. Best 25 in Canada, and I've been judging bull riding for 19 years now. Actually, I've been judging a lot longer than I rode. I'm just better at judging than riding, right? So I was up there
probably
Friday,
a good
Saturday.
thing.
Oh yeah, it's way easier on your body anyways. So yeah, no, that's where I was last night and took Chelsea and the kids up, and it was a good event.
How do you get started in judging? Let's go back 19 or however long it's been.
It was in June of 2000 actually. Little bull riding in Pincher Creek. A buddy of mine kind of pushed me into it, and I didn't really want to be doing that at the time, I guess, and it worked out well. It was a terrible day. It was a June day in Pincher Creek. Snow was knee deep. Just a lovely, shitty, cold day out there.
Was the wind up?
Oh,
was
just a touch, just a smidgen in Old Pea Creek, and so that was my first event. And as you know, I came from a family of bull riders, the older ones.
Not judges.
No judges. They rode a lot better than I did, but I understood the game also as they did, and here we are 19 years later. I've been judging the Canadian finals for bull riding in Canada for 19 years, voted on by the bull riders, and I'm now have been judging long enough that the kids that weren't even born are riding bulls now. Here, when I started, they're here. So that's kind of where it started. And it's cool. Like I say, I want to be the best at no matter what I do. And I feel right now in Canada, I'm one of the best guys. So, and have been for a while. It's a good sport. And, that's just my part of it now.
It's perfect. Yeah. There's lots of things I want to touch on today. But today's a significant day, the date today. So
March 24th.
We'll touch on that just a little bit.
Yeah, it is, Wade. March 24th in 2000, my brother Glenn was actually killed in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Yeah. So it was of course a devastating day for the whole family, not just family, friends. You're part of all of our lives, even back in those days and long before. But it was tough. Glenn was, I look at life like I can be kind of an ornery son of a bitch at times, and I got guys that don't like me. Glenn was, when you go to funerals and people say, nobody didn't like people. Glenn was actually one of those.
He was
guys.
That one guy that did exist.
Yeah, he was. Glenn was a solid man, and he was always there for everybody. Didn't matter if you had $1 or $1 million, and you know what? As far as I'm concerned, one of the best bull riders the world's ever seen, and definitely one of the top Canadian bull riders. And you know what? It was tough, and every year we sit down and think about him. He died 4 days after his 30th birthday. Went down south, and the weird thing about it back in those days is Glenn was sitting third in the PBR, that's the best bull riders in the world. It is, and Glenn had a great year going. The bull that killed him was a bull named Promised Land. Yeah. Was actually the reigning world champion bull. And a lot of people look at that being a terrible thing. Well, it is. We all die one way or the other. Unfortunately, there's some more tragedy here or there. And Glenn was a guy that lived and breathed bull riding. Like his buddy Colin Esklin always said, when they were in kindergarten, he wrote stories about it as how he's going to be a world champion. Yeah. And you know what? we've all seen people die of sickness. Glenn went out in the ultimate battle.
Died doing what he loved.
Yeah,
that's the big one.
The ultimate battle, and it is. It's a tough day. I always respect him every day of my life. Yeah. Much less today was a day that all of our lives changed.
That's right. That's right. Can you tell us a little bit about where he started, and then how the legacy continued up till it ended? Kind of.
Sure. Yeah. Our whole family. My grandpa's a Jack Streeter, and Grandma Alice Streeter. Grandpa was actually what they call an original member of professional rodeo, what they call the Turtle Association, which the reason they called it Turtles is it was slow moving and trying to make the professional rodeo take a hold in the 20s and 30s, right? Our Grandpa Streeter was just a solid man. Like, he's still one of the guys I look up to, even though he's been gone since 93. He's just a great guy, and that's kind of where we got started. Grandpa was more of a calf roper, but he was a cowboy. He was a ranchman. He was a stockman, and we lived across the yard from each other our whole lives, all of us kids. And my dad and mom, John and Donna, like they never pushed us, right? Like, so my oldest brother Clayton, of course, started as a steer rider, and we were unknown in that world. David carried on. And those guys always rode good. Clayton, was professional. Glenn just took it to that next level, right? Glenn was the youngest Canadian champion still to this day in any event. He won it in grade, he's 18. He was grade 12 in the Canadian bull riding championship. He was a guy that excelled, took it to what we were kind of taught. You don't ride bulls for a living, right? I'm sure you get a job, you get a real job.
You proved
right?
you wrong there.
Yeah. And Glenn, that's what he did. He rode bulls for a living, but he did it right. There's this day and age, all athletes, there's arrogant, and there's guys that think they're badass. Well, Glenn was badass, but you would never have known that.
That's right.
Right, as you know, like you knew Glenn well, and Glenn took it. He was a part of the original PBR guys in '93. The year he made the NFR, he just carried right on. He was a guy that, like I say, for a lack of a better word, I judged, as I said earlier, a lot of events. And he's a guy that I'd never once seen not give 110%.
Right.
Some of these guys do it for the wrong reasons, and he didn't. He wanted to be the best.
Yeah.
And,
period.
Period. That was it. And you know what? He went through it. My brother Jason and Glenn traveled all over. When Christmas was done, they went south, and they come home about this time of year. They were gone in the States all over. Traveled.
Sore and beat up a bit, and
just
home for a rest.
You know what? And that's was Glenn's legacy. As he carried on, he became very elite at it, and yeah, it was hard on his body, and unfortunately, it ended his life. But I don't think if we could talk to him today, he'd have any regrets.
No,
I really don't.
I agree with you.
The nice thing for us as a community in the Nanton Staveley area is it was quite a few years after. Actually, next year will be the 16th year. We started the bull riding in Staveley, the Glen Keeley Memorial. It's been a PBR now for about 13 years. It's 100% charity. It's donated over $250,000 in a town of 400 people, right? It's pretty amazing.
It's a big deal for
sure.
It
is. And it's pretty cool to see the people that come out, and you see them once a year usually, those guys, right? And they come and respect Glen. The bull riders always ride good. I do a lot of events, and it's one of the best events every year that I go to.
It's great.
Yeah.
I don't get to go to all of them, but when I do show up to one, I have a really good time. And it's serious.
Yeah, it's done right. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
For sure. And it's a lot of people, unfortunately, in this world just get left, and forgot about, and we're not willing to.
You kept that legacy.
Yeah, for sure.
Kept it rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about the old memorial bull riding.
The memorial bull riding, like I say, I remember it very well. It was the spring that the Staveley Rodeo didn't go. It was, over sponsorship issues or whatnot, and Lee Williams, and there's a bunch of us. Colin Estlin, a lot of Glenn's good friends and family friends, and We sat in the basement of the Stavely bar of all places.
The basement down in that's like a root cellar.
It's kind of like a dungeon almost a little bit. We had a little meeting down there, and it was sweet. We talked. Don Williams was there actually. Lee and Trevor and Jody's
Not the
dad.
singer.
No, not the singer.
That would have been nice.
You know, he's pretty cool too.
That would have been nice.
We talked about it, how we needed to do something and
Get something started.
Yeah, so that will be this September. The event will be in its 16th year, and like I say, we have a big tribute video. We always had one that originally was made by Supervision, some guys that we do big screen with, and Al Lively a couple of years ago, and his niece redid a whole new one, and it's pretty cool because it has multiple world champions talking about Glenn on it, lots of Canadian champions, and just videos of Glenn and life, right? And not that that's the biggest thing a guy thinks about, but it's pretty sweet video and pretty sweet tribute.
You guys have like super, like the rock stars of the announcers, the judges, that everybody shows up to that show, right?
Yeah,
That's
they
like
do.
The elite of the elite.
Yeah.
It's the best show in Canada.
Yeah, for sure. We've won the bull riding of Canada multiple times. Nice. Last year we had guys from 5 different countries competing.
Yeah.
We had multiple world finalists in the PBR, multiple Canadian finalists, Canadian champs. It's top shelf.
It's the best value for your dollar you'll find.
Yeah, it's
period.
You wouldn't think you were sitting in.
No,
stable.
I know. I never do.
Crazy.
I always think I'm somewhere being a big shot. Yeah, you feel like you are when you're there. Yeah.
It's good. Between the Ag Society and the Rodeo Committee and our committee of the Glenn Keeley Memorial, there's a lot of cool things happen in Stavely.
How many volunteers does it take to pull that off?
Well,
and then there's also people you got to pay, and then there's people that need to make a dollar out of it.
You know, there's probably between the Ag Society and the fire department, and you know, there'd be probably 50 to 60 people, volunteers.
10% of the town.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, and then there's 14 or 15 of us on the committee. You know, and like you say, you got I think last year Ty Streeter does the bullpen. I think they got 9 stock contractors. Like the pen of bulls, like it makes me glad I'm not a bull rider because they're exceptional. Like they're just unreal superstar athletes and bulls that we bring there.
I'm always like, wow,
it's crazy.
These things are rank.
Well, and it's one of them deals. I've never, out of all the events I've judged, I've never judged Stavely, our bull riding there. And I've always said, if I judge it, I'll never judge another event. That'll be the last one.
How much ranker are those bulls today? Like, let's say last year's event compared to when it started.
Oh,
are they ranker or not really?
Yeah,
they are.
They are.
They are. They just are.
You know, I was visiting with a buddy of mine from Twin Butte the other day, watching old Stampede videos, for instance. And when I was a kid, I thought the bulls were bad dudes. Like they were bucking. And you know what? Don't get me wrong. There was some very elite athletes, but nowadays every one of them's that way, right? And from, like you say, 15 years ago to last fall,
the riders have changed as well.
The riders, in a way, there was very good guys 15 years ago, like say my brother Glenn and the Joyels of the world, Daryl Mills, you know, guys like that. Scott Schiffner he was one of the guys that was there forever.
He's a good motorhome driver too.
Oh yeah, we all remember that from Millings. we'll have to
talk about that later. Yeah,
but the bulls nowadays. You know, a lot of people look at bull riding and think, it's exploitation of animals. It's not. The bulls now are treated so well. They are bred for athlete abilities. No different than we strive for. Of course, we're not bred one way or the other. We're
going
lucky.
For that.
Yeah, it's amazing actually. Like most of the bulls are quieter than my border collie dog, right? And don't get me wrong, they're guys. You know, once they get in the arena and they're competing, they're testosterone.
They know what's up.
Yeah, and you know what? If you get in the way of them, it's going to probably hurt. Mm-hmm. But right now, the stock contractors of North America and the bucking bull world, it's hats off to them because the animals are athletic, they're fed well, they're conditioned, right? They don't just sit in a field. every day of the hour.
They're athletes themselves.
They get out and they exercise, and they're fed a high energy, high protein diet. And you know what? Yeah, from 15 years ago to now, the bulls are way better.
Yeah, genetically speaking, they're perfect.
Oh, they are.
Yeah,
like
they're
I said,
supreme.
flat I'm a judge, not a rider. And you know what? That's why I do that game, right? I love the game, and it's got its drawbacks of friends and family being beat up and hurt or killed, but it's unfortunately sometimes it's in your blood, right? And it's a cool deal.
Cool, totally cool. What about? Can you touch on Jason's history back in the day?
Yeah,
just because that was a long time ago.
Yeah,
I'd like to be caught up on it.
Jason's the next brother older than me, so in between me and my sister, Teresa. Jason is living out in Whitewood, Saskatchewan. He's got 4 beautiful children, just top, like three girls. And his son, and great family.
Absolutely.
Jason probably, like him and Glenn's style were so different. Glenn was really classy, something when you heard Glenn's name you wanted to kind of watch because he'd spur and whatnot. But Jason actually, in percentage riding, probably rode more. Jason, when he was 18, was hurt really badly. He was down in Caldwell, Idaho, at a PRCA rodeo. A bull jumped up 6-7 feet in the air and then flipped upside down, landed right on top of him. It was a terrible head trauma. He was in a coma down in, they flew him to Boise, Idaho. He was there for a few weeks, and then they actually flew him up to Foothills in Calgary. He was there damn near a year. He had to learn how to pretty much walk, talk, do it all. And you know what? I remember the night Glenn called the house, because Glenn was with him. It was before Glenn was killed. And it was in 94 there, and Glenn phoned, and I answered the phone, and my dad was out at our cabin in forestry. And we were pretty cool dudes. Like, we thought we were kind of badass. Like, Keeley boys, we were kind of the bad son of bitches you'd ever see.
Tough and bad and all that,
And that was a night for me. I was pretty young. Like, say, I was a teenager still. That was a night it kind of all changed a little bit, because I thought we were untouchable. And this sounds stupid. Bull riding world.
It happens.
Yeah. And Glenn just said, he's like, Jason's hurt and I don't know if he's going to live, right? Like and in all honesty, I'm not a religious guy, you know that. But that night and that whole situation was a bit of a miracle. He had very similar injuries to like a 60-mile-an-hour car crash hitting a wall. Yeah. His brain turned on its spinal column, multiple abrasions in his brain. Yeah. Mom and Dad flew down that night just pretty much to make sure he was there. Like he wasn't supposed to live. There was a neurosurgeon guy named Dr. Reedy kind of pressured him to pull the plug. Like he was living on life support, and we're pretty bullheaded as Keeleys. I'm not sure.
Turns out it's a good thing.
He sat there and Jason chewed at the time, and I remember it was funny. Not that we're medical doctors, but Glenn would take his Copenhagen and put it under his nose daily, and his heart rate would come
sniff
up.
Of it.
His heart rate would come up, and so they told us he didn't have any brain ability, but that showed us he did. Even if it was an addiction.
And it takes time to tell. Yeah, we all know that. Yeah.
And fast forward, he of course never got on bulls again, right? He at the time, I think Jason was in the top 10 of the PRCA world. Like, he was as badass of an 18-year-old kid as you ever seen. The guy could ride anything. But fast forward here years later, beautiful family. He can cowboy. He works for a company out in Whitewood, welding outfit out there. I'm sure he's not as young as he once was, but
I think he does real good.
Jason's a lot like Glenn, real solid guy. Word's his word, and he's just a real good person, right? Like, it's always a treat I find when he can get out or we get out there. He's just a guy that just more people should be like.
He was here a few years ago. He came here and had that old golden limousine, the Golden Nugget. He was the last one to drive it before the flood wiped it out.
That's right. At Chris's birthday party. That's right too. Yeah.
Christian Chadaway's birthday. And I laughed. The chick at the waitresses at the Longview Hotel. There's like it's full. It's packed. And your brother, he looks like he might have had a few too many drinks.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, take the keys from him. They're like, you can't drive. And I'm like, give him those goddamn keys back. He's fine. And he goes, I haven't had a drink for 19 or 20 some years. But he is the last one to drive it.
I guess.
And then it got wiped out by the flood.
Down the damn highway, eh?
Yeah, I always laugh about that one.
Oh, yeah. No, Jason, believe me, when he did drink as a young guy, it was worth watching.
It was worth paying attention.
Yeah. No, he's a good man. No, so that's like I say, it's life changes and things change, but he's a good man. And
I always enjoy seeing him. Well, all you Keeleys.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Don't get to see him very much.
No,
but we've had the whole gang together a few times.
Oh, time or two for sure.
Yeah, that's good.
Back in the days of mom and dad, for sure.
I also want to touch just in bull riding. Which I've been corrected a few times. He used to say rodeo.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it ain't a rodeo, Wade. It's bull riding. And I'm like, whoa, okay. But now is it pretty much bull riding? And there is the odd rodeo that has bull riding in it, right?
Oh, for sure. All the rodeos still have bull riding.
Yeah.
And, I'm a PBR judge. So in the world of rodeo, most of our parents, friends, and whatnot are rodeo people, right? We all were rodeo people. And it's something I've always said. I go to different events where there's rodeos and bull ridings in town at the same time, and sometimes you got that element of society that looks at you like you're trying to ruin rodeo.
Right.
You're ruining a way of life for us. And I don't look at it that way. I look at it's Western sports, right?
For sure.
Yeah, and you know what? I grew up as a boy wanting to be at the Canadian Finals or the NFR, which are rodeos. They're the top Canadian or the top world guys. And in '93, that's when the PBR came to fruition, I guess you'll say. That's when they started it. And you're right, they're still the rodeo world is and the rodeo business is, I think, very successful still. For myself, I judge the Calgary Stampede.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, you're a bull riding judge. Well, and you know what? The bull riding part of the Stampede is PBR. But for me, as a kid from Nanton, Stavely, Alberta,
that was still on your site.
It was cool. Yeah, it was really cool to get asked.
Totally.
I'm still going there this July, and to me, rodeo, it's not a competition. Our competition is the entertainment dollar, right? And marketing Western sports and rodeo or bull riding is what we need. If these kids are going to, not they're all kids, but if they're going to get into that game, we want them to make money, right?
It doesn't matter if you're a roper, bulldogger, saddle bronc rider, bull rider. No. You guys are all in the same.
Exactly.
They're all in the same program. Same team at the end of the day. Yeah. You guys need to get exposed. Yeah. You need to get some sort of dollars coming down the drain, and so everybody can make some goddamn money. Yeah.
Well, and it's a tough game. It's I got guys that are my age that and I grew up with a really, really elite group of guys in Canada. The Kelly Armstrongs, Austin Beasleys, the Bowers. There was some very, very handy guys. Those guys all, if they were NHL stars, would be retired sitting in Bahamas. They were very good. NFR, the elite.
Pay wasn't the same 15, 20 years ago.
It wasn't. And
you got a free Dodge, or you had a shitty pickup truck once in a while.
Well, and you know what? They made good money at the time, but their bodies are beat up. And I just look at it. The PBR has been bought by we're in a different time. It's a marketing company, the IMG company. That's been a big thing for the PBR.
Huge.
They're sports marketers. They market for the NHL, the NBA, the Major League Baseball. And so it has went a different way than maybe the CPRA or the PRCA. But you know what? It all helps, right? We were in Dallas at the start of February for the Global Cup. It's a PBR competition. There's over 40,000 people at this bull riding.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Was cool. You know what? that's good for rodeo too.
Twice as much as you'll get in the saddle.
Oh yeah. And you know what? They were fans. Like it, and it's a team competition, that deal, and it's good for rodeo. And you know what I was saying to you earlier? All these bull riders aren't necessarily what we would call like my grandpa street or a cowboy.
Right.
There's lots of bull riders, and then there's very good cowboys.
Things have changed.
Yeah, and you know what? There's half them kids that are very, very good cowboys. Don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of kids see it on TV, and they're like, oh, that looks like an adrenaline rush. And fair enough. You know, it was when I was a kid, and now the bulls are that much better. So, and there, you know, there's some kids in that PBR down south, the elite level, whether the Brazilians, Americans. There was a guy from up here in Canada, Aaron Roy, has hit $1 million in value of his PBR deal. There's other bull riders.
Like earnings in a year, over a career. Yeah, that's good.
There's also 26, 28-year-old Brazilian or American kids that are $7, $8, $9 million in earnings. You know, that's starting to. When you retire, you can actually retire, not just go get, like, to me, I call it quitting, because you're going to get a job, right? You know,
actually retire without having to find a job.
Especially, So
yeah.
That's the one thing that, for me, is, yes, I judge, so of course I'm not there. I'm there, I guess, as a fan, but I'm not, for 2.5 hours, I'm not a fan. I'm a judge.
You're
right?
serious,
you know, But for me,
you got to do your job too, right? When you're there.
As a guy that loves bull riding, it's great to see them stories. It's great to see somebody with $7 or $8 million.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Because that's what I look at. Like my brother Glenn, that's what his dream was to see that day. And you know what? Some of those guys were the pioneers, and prior to that, even my grandpa Streeter, way back in the 20s and 30s, and the Herman Linders of that world, to my brother Glenn and the Tough Hedemans or the Jim Sharps or the Cody Lamberts, they're just guys that can go, wow, they've made it. Right? And it's kind of keep going that way.
It's awesome.
Because they should. I truly feel, you know, and
well, they're superstars.
Yeah.
They're celebrities.
Well,
they are at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's a tough world. Like those guys, don't get me wrong, I love hockey and I love a lot of sports, but those guys are athletes. Like if you've ever, you know, even rode a horse 100 feet at a high speed, much less a bull for 8 seconds don't seem like a lot. But just watch one.
Yeah.
You know, watch the good.
It takes a long time to get real good and proficient at that.
And they're athletes, those guys, right?
Yeah,
so
totally.
No, it's different times though.
Well, let's make a different direction here. Let's talk about the auctioneering world for a little while.
The auction business, it's
maybe let's start how you got started in that. I kind of remember.
It's
been a while ago.
I actually, back in the day, it was 2000. And I was working at Willow Springs. I was managing Willow Springs Ranch. And, you know, time for change. And I actually, Al Lively, we used to deal with Al Lively a lot with marketing the cattle out there. And he come, I remember it very well, the big round table there at the Gregory place. Yeah. And, you know, he said, I think, like, why don't you come work at the Highwood auction for us? I was like, I don't really care to go to an auction market. Like, I don't really like people that much at the time, right? I was kind of reclusive in those days, and other than my friends. And so I went, actually, I moved into the trailer up here, just at Alderside, there at the Highwood auction market, and I ran the yards. He hired a guy named Blaine Kellington, who's since passed away. Blaine's probably the reason I stayed there, just a top-notch guy.
They still got that bike there?
Yeah, I think.
Remember that mountain bike?
Yeah, Lee Williams, Johnny Turbo. Yeah,
that's right.
Oh,
yeah.
And I ran the yards there for a couple of years, and I kind of got inside a little bit, but I was mostly outside sorting, feeding, you know, doing actually the hard work of an auction market. And then I was kind of getting to the point where that was getting where I needed to change, and then Al also owned Pincher Creek auction market, so he said, well, do you want to go down there and run that for us?
Did he purchase that, or did he own both of those at the same time?
At the same time. So, you know, before I'd go back and forth from Highwood and work at both places, and he asked me if I'd be interested in going down running it. So what the hell, I'm always up for a challenge.
Give her shit.
And Pincher Creek was one of the oldest auction markets in Canada. You know, neat town, great town. I ended up moving there. Yeah. And I lived there for damn near 18 years. Wow. Yeah, I bought a place on Highway 6 down in on the way to Twin Butte there, Waterton Country. I actually still own the place. Chelsea and I just came back to the ranch a couple years ago. But that little town was a huge part of our lives.
And that's agriculture to the heart down there.
Agriculture. You actually got the shell plant too. So you got some oil.
But there's heavy cattle business down there.
Yeah, big cattle, big farmers. Yeah. You know what? We had a great time there. I miss it. It was, time to come back to the ranch. But we raised Cass and Chase there, my oldest two kids. They went to all their schooling there other than a few years on the coast. And just...
beautiful community.
Oh yeah, and that part of the world, like you could sit on your couch drinking coffee at our house and count the grizzly bears. Like it's a beautiful part of the world. We were very successful there. I was pretty goal orientated. I wanted to run more cattle through that ring than anybody ever had in like the 60 some years. Yeah, and I got it done.
Awesome.
The year we actually ended up buying Fort McLeod auction from the Hurlburt family.
Okay.
So then we closed Pincher Creek under some, local duress. It was hard. Any community losing a business is tough.
For sure.
But we just felt we could do it.
That was like them losing their grocery store.
Yeah, it was.
Just as bad.
And so we sat in a meeting there with producers and we explained them our thoughts. And we thought that we could do a better job marketing the cattle in Fort McLeod, kind of bigger center, a little closer to the feeders of the buying world. And so we ended up moving over there.
Everybody agreed?
Not
quite, but enough?
Yeah, and you know what? Not going to lie, we lost a few customers. We've got some of them back. But
bound to happen.
That's the business, right? And
that's the nature of the beast.
You know what? In Fort McLeod, we've done a good job there.
Great.
Calgary Public Auctions came to Highwood after, and they actually
purchased that whole outfit there.
Yeah, and the way it's kind of like we were talking with the bull riding world. This business has changed so much, right? Like I've been in it for damn near 20 years now, and I oversee kind of the operations at McLeod, and my job. That's why I said earlier, the real work in an auction market is out back. It's your sorters, your penners, your guys that are there late at night. And I'm not there all the time. I help out sometimes. Usually I'm more in the way and they tell me to get out of there.
Beat it.
But my job is I drive around bullshit for a living. Yeah. Right? I visit with
You're the outside salesman.
Yeah.
Is that what they call it? In the oil business, that's what they call
it. I'm in public relations, right? And I drive around and I visit with people and I go to the buyers and make sure they're happy, make sure I have good cattle for them to buy. And Southern Alberta, this Calgary South, we deal with guys out to Cranbrook. We do have, and I'm not saying this to toot anybody's horns, we have some of the best genetics in the world.
Oh, for sure.
Right? The cattle I get to sell, we sell at Fort McLeod, they're a pleasure to sell. Like they're not, just a little bunch of...
You're selling Cadillacs.
Yeah, we really are. And so that's where we've kind of been sitting there. Me and Alan years ago visited about changing a little bit, more technology push to the marketing. And so we started a couple video sales. What they are is future contracting
also
by auction.
Satellite sales?
Yeah, kind of. Like there is a satellite auction company. They call it satellite sale. We just have it. We kind of changed a bit because we wanted to make it big enough that it was good for buyers and the seller, right? Because what we do, for instance, the first Friday in August, we go out to Chain Lakes.
Right.
And which sounds silly, Chain Lakes Provincial Park, and it's got a beautiful...
the MD building, or whatever they call it. It's beautiful.
MD building. We have big screens. We drive around through July and early August filming, describing cattle, and that's how we sell them. You sit there watching TV for a couple hours. Last year we sold 19,000 yearlings in about an hour and a half.
Wow.
So those cattle get sold throughout the fall, but they're sold that day. I think it was August 7th last year. They're sold that day on maybe an October delivery, right? So then you buy them and you're ready for them in October. So what we feel is it's good for the producer because they get good money, less stress on the animal because he goes from, say, my ranch to
all
your
this
feedlot.
Transportation and the shipping and
it's not
in a different space for a few days. And,
yeah,
great. Yeah,
it works well for for the cattle, works well for the producers, and works well for the buyers. So then after that one started working well, we wanted to do a straight up wean calf one. And now what we've done is the Lethbridge Lodge, I think it's Sandman now. We go down there and we rent the ballroom on the...
Yeah, it's a sharp place.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like it's this year it's actually Friday the 13th in September, which is... It depends who you are, good or bad, right? But last year we had just over 40,000 calves.
Wow.
It's the biggest calf sale in Canada, and the Chain Lakes one's the biggest yearling sale.
Excellent.
We sell cattle from Saskatchewan to BC and everywhere in between. We got representatives up in the Dutchess country, down Carson, all over. We spend a lot of time filming cattle, and it's
like
awesome.
the YouTube of the cattle world, cattle selling world.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there's other guys doing that idea. There's DLMS, there's Team, there's other guys like that. We just feel that because a lot of them you sit in your office.
Right.
And we actually have live auctioneers. I sit there, I work the ring a lot, I'm hollering and screaming. We have buyers in-house.
You've got the same feel in the auctioneering ring.
True auction atmosphere.
Yeah, nice.
Because we feel...
people love that.
Yeah, we
people
feel
love
that we can do a better job, not only for our producers, but for our buyers. And then we also go out and we'd help the people deliver their cattle the day of. And like I say, that sale, we deliver cattle to the buyers from the end of September right into December, from the September 13th sale. And it's... the wave of the future. There's some auction markets don't push that. We use both. Don't get me wrong. We still like our auction ring in Fort Macleod, but we do really like the.
And it's just the one sale every year.
Well, we do the Chain Lakes in August, and then we do
annually. That's it.
Yeah. And then like for instance, 2 weeks ago we had a big yearling sale in town with a couple thousand yearlings, and then we have big screens in the auction market.
Yeah.
That people probably think we watch football on, but we actually sell in-house. Like if you have a couple hundred yearlings you want to sell, but you don't want to bring them to town, I'll just sell them that day, right? We just put them on, we sell,
and then shipping direct to the buyer, which is great.
Yeah, it works out well. And
that's got to save a lot of money at the end of the day.
And for the producer...
Except for the truckers.
Yeah, but
they
buyers,
still get the job either way.
Paid. Yeah,
they still get it.
Way. Yeah, and that's the one thing. You do take the, like for us, we use Doug Nelson a lot.
Yeah.
There's sometimes that maybe... Old Joe Blow was driving into Fort Macleod auction first, but a lot of times I use Doug as much as I can anyway when we're selling them.
Yeah, you guys have that relationship forever. Yeah, for sure.
No, it's it's something that it's my job at the auction market when I was a kid. If you would have told me that was a job, my dad probably would have said, "No, it's not a job. You don't talk for a living, right?" But it's one of them things I truly feel, and don't get me wrong, I'm not maybe your stereotypical PR guy, because I don't want to deal with
it. Took a while though.
Well,
but it wasn't your intention when you started.
It wasn't,
and now you're doing it.
It's awesome. I'm lucky because I get to go into these producers' yards, see their programs, see their setups, meet their families. That's the best part of my job, right?
Hands on, you get to see the quality of their ranch, the quality of the way they treat the animals, the quality of everything, right?
Just the quality of them, right?
Yeah, them. That's the big bonus.
One of the neatest stories I ever did, there's a guy from out in Briscoe, BC. I don't know if you've ever been to Briscoe.
No.
It's like a roping arena and a gas station.
Perfect.
All that's there. And he said to me, this fellow's name's Peter, he said, let's go look at my cows. I rent some land straight west of Invermere. So we go on a road, and I always usually take my truck, right? You're trying to get the business. He's like, no, we can't take my truck because I rent from 4 bachelors and I guess you call them a bachelorette, like a woman. They're 5 elderly siblings. And I'm like, oh, that's,
the whole works of them.
Yeah, and they live and they're old. It's an old Austrian family. So we are 2 mountain ranges west of Invermere.
Wow.
And I'm glad I didn't drive because I would have cried if I had to drive. Like logging roads, like terrifying things. Where's, cutbacks. And we get up onto the top of the Rockies. There's this beautiful meadow up there. And he's like, okay, this is right after BSE yet, right? And he said, these guys are going to have some conspiracy theory.
They'll have some questions.
Oh, yeah. But he said, don't get out and don't speak to him unless you're spoken to. And I think, I don't know this guy that well, but I'm like, he's
just pulling my leg.
Pulling my leg. This is going to be awesome, right? We get up there, and this is the most beautiful piece of land I've maybe ever seen. It's really weird how the peaks and the meadow was up as high as it was. We get up there, and it looks kind of like an old wooden granary, what I'd call a wooden granary. Well, out the back door comes this elderly man running. And not us. Yeah, and he gets out of there and he hides behind this old log and kind of shack. I'm like, holy Christ, Peter, you're not joking. Like, they are bushy up here. Well, that man never came. He sat and watched us around the corner.
He never,
like a scared
He
ant.
never talked to you.
No, never
Really?
even left that corner. Well, there's one window and one door in this house. Long, narrow house. And when I get right in front of it, the curtain's open. And there's like 3 sets of eyes, like overlooking and I'm like, oh my God, we're going to be shot out here in this place. And anyway, finally door opens and this one older man comes out. And his name was Franz. I don't even know their last name. I couldn't tell you. Like, I was just in shock. Like, and he goes right to Peter's side of the door, or the driver's side. And Peter's, as he's coming, he's like, don't say nothing to him unless he talks to you. So I just look ahead, and all he says is the Americans are trying to spoil our industry with this BSC. It's 100% conspiracy. We all know it's BS, but anyhow, anyway, you don't even look at me. Like, I kind of feel like I would pray, right? And then he just goes, what's your thoughts on the conspiracy theory I have? I'm like, yeah, I don't agree with you. And that's the only words we said. He never once said, and then nobody else ever come out. The other 2 eyes that I seen stared at us the whole time.
He said, what do you think about it? You said, I don't agree with you.
Yeah,
and then that was it.
Yeah, he didn't
really
argue.
No rebuttal.
I was just glad he didn't. But they were an Austrian family, totally self-serving. Serving, like Peter would bring the groceries twice.
They were like off the grid a little bit. They
Really?
go to town once in a while.
And I'm like, not that I got to sit and visit with them because I'm sure they've all since passed away, but it was a unique thing that not doing what I do, you don't get to see that nowadays.
No, you wouldn't even know it existed.
Like there's days people call me bushy because I don't go to town for a few days or whatever, but we don't have that type of land.
No, you have all the technology everybody
neighbors
else
are
has.
5 miles away that you're bushy in this country. And it was neat. That's the sort of stuff, like, I have been to places in southern BC or even right here within a couple hours.
They just wouldn't. The average man would never
go to
see
them, right? No. And so I am pretty damn lucky to do what I do, right? So,
that's true.
Yeah. So that's, like I say, here we are still, me and a couple of us, me and Alan, Darren Shaw, and Alan's dad's now own the auction market. And
cool.
so it's been, a few years.
And the future's looking good?
Yeah, things look good. The bigger cattle are under some pressure. With price-wise, light cattle really strong, but I think we'll have a good spring. Hopefully we get decent moisture and everybody can get some good crops. And
I've been telling anybody that'll listen. I'm like, if it's got to do with food, it's got to be a good investment.
Exactly.
These days. Because we're running out of places to grow it. We're getting too many people.
You're right.
I don't care if you're going to grow cabbage or carrots or cattle or kidney beans. I think it's a good idea.
Well, and you gotta have this day and age ethically provided food, ethically built food, ethically raised food. Yeah. That's what you have to do. And our auction market, that's a big part of it. I understand when the cattle get to our auction market, that's the most stressful day of their lives.
Yeah.
Right? And there's not a lot you can do about it for the actual stress of changing locations. But for me as a market operator, our crew, there's no beating, there's no screaming and hollering. Like, you have to make that,
it can be done in a gentle fashion.
As good a job as you can do. And you know what? Yeah, they're animals. They're going to take some stress. But our job, and the whole industry's job, is to make sure it's damn well done right. And I think that's becoming more to the forefront. You know what? We all know people that you say that ethically raised or whatever, they want to bow up and fight. Well, it's the world we're in, right? Plain and simple. I was raised that way. My grandfather, that man was years ahead of his time and how he dealt with cattle. And
there's cowboys and then there's cattlemen.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you know what? And we're lucky. We have some of the best people in the world.
Hopefully I don't get beat up when I go downtown after.
Somebody give you a licking. But at the end of the day, we're lucky.
I think there's cattlemen and there's cowboys for sure.
And you know what? I wouldn't say, like I said, if we deal with guys that are not doing a proper job or are unethical or untruthful, we just don't deal with them. I'll find somebody.
That's it.
Right at the end of the day, I'm not the guy that's going to do it no matter what.
There's no shortcuts.
No. Plain and simple. I want to do the best. I want to sell the highest cattle for my producers. You know what? We're in a close proximity. I live west of Stavely. Yeah. Friend of mine, Rob Bergevin, owns that.
You live right in the middle of all the other producers.
Well, I do, and I live right by another auction market. Rob does a good job, and so do we. I want to promote that we treat your cattle, yourself, with respect, and I want to make
That's
some
cool.
more money. Plain and simple. That's my
cool.
job. I like being the best at what I want to do.
I like
and
that.
no matter what, right?
It's important.
Yeah, that's
Any industry.
Exactly. Yeah, any
And if
industry.
you don't, you're compromising everything.
Exactly.
Simple
Go do
as-
something else.
Yeah, you better do something else.
I agree.
Yeah, if you can't do it the best you can, you should probably think about doing something
Yeah.
that you might be able to handle.
That's
Oh, goodness gracious.